Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. So today's gonna be part 2 of the wheel bearing and hub job on the OBS, and let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into it. By the way, full disclaimer, I'm not a professional, I'm not a mechanic or none of that. But I want to show you how to do this, but also do your own research. So watch the video as a guide, but do some research or consult a professional, not me. Anyways, let's jump right to it. So I'm gonna show you first a few of the things that I got to complete the job. Some things are new, some things are used, but everything should work and should be in good condition. So I'm gonna start first with the smaller stuff. I got a hub rebuild kit from Warren for our locking hubs. It comes with new O-rings, new these retainer clips, rings, new Allen bolts and C-clips for the lockout hubs, and these cool little stickers to go on the hubs themselves. I also got the spindle knot kit from Yukon Gear and Axle. I got the whole kit, so it's the inner nut, the lock washer, and the outer nut. And then probably the most important part of this whole job is the actual hub itself. Now this part, I got it off of eBay, and it's a used hub, but it's in very good condition, as you can see. Not a lot of wear, and it looks really good. Comes with the studs, and it also comes with a new seal and new wheel bearings. And all of this was actually at a really good price. I'll put the exact price, and I'll put a link to this. Now, it's not a guarantee that if you click on that link, you'll find this kit, because it is used, and that obviously means that there is limited quantities on it. But I believe I paid about $250, $230 for that kit, for the hub kit, which you can get these things new. And if you want to, you can do that. I would do that. But the thing is that it's way more expensive to get these things new, and you only get this new. You still have to get the wheel bearings and everything else if you want to. So for me, and from what I'm using this thing for, I think this will do. So like I said, I'll leave a link down to that in the description, and then in the comments for you guys if you want to check it out, as well as everything else that I used in this video. So anyways, let's jump right into it. Let's start taking the disc brakes off of that hub so we can get started with this whole job. Okay, so now the way we're gonna do this is pretty simple. I placed the disc brake and hub on a piece of cardboard, that way it's not on the actual concrete, to give it a little bit of a cushion. You're gonna grab yourself a big old hammer and just pound them out. Okay, so now with all the studs out, this thing should come out. Now, if yours is stuck and doesn't come out as easily as mine did, all you gotta do is get yourself a chisel, and on the hub, there is that one space right there, and just wedge your chisel in there and start hitting it, then work your way around it, and it should just pop off. It shouldn't be that hard. Anyways. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is take my disc brake and install it on the new hub. Make sure that everything's nice and clean. And you could even use some NICs around this to make sure that it doesn't seize up. I live in Arizona though. We don't really get a lot of rust or anything that would make this thing seize. So I think I should be fine. Now we're gonna drop in the new studs on here. And then you're gonna grab your punch again and then punch them in. Okay, and just like that, we're done. Make sure that they're all properly seated. Turn your disc and hub around to make sure that there's no gap or nothing. Make sure that all the studs look nice and even, and these look pretty good. By the way, it really helps to have a good sized rod like this to drive in the studs. So now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and get the actual hub ready. I'm gonna clean it up first, make sure it's nice and clean. Then grease it up a little bit, install the bearings, install the seal. Okay, so now with your your hub nice and clean, you can go ahead and inspect it. Make sure it's all good, that you don't see any deformations on it, that it's nice and round. Now obviously you might not be able to like instantly see that being bad, but another thing you can see is mine already has the race in it. And if I feel that there's no grooves, there's nothing, you know, that'll affect the actual bearing, it's in really good shape. So we're gonna go ahead and keep this one, even though the bearing already came with one. I think this one will be fine. So now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and pack the bearing and go ahead and install it. So I'm gonna try a trick that I saw online and see if it works. What I'm gonna do is grab a Ziploc bag, grab a nice handful of grease, turn it back the right side, and then we're gonna grab our wheel bearing. Now there's two wheel bearings in your hub. There is the basically like the outer and the inner wheel bearing. And as you can see, they're different sizes. The bigger one is the one that's gonna go. It's the inner one, basically the one that's gonna go first. So now what I'm gonna do is throw the wheel bearing in there with the grease. Close this thing up. And then start packing it. And now what you do is you grab your grease and you wanna kind of push it into the bearing. And kind of do that all the way around. And this is really nice because you're not gonna get any of that grease on your hands. It's a little bit harder to do than if you just, you know, had it in your hand and were, you know, packing it like this. But if you're like me and don't like getting this stuff all over your hands, it is definitely a better option. There we go. Now you basically want to pack it until grease starts coming out the other side. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and install the seal, and they make a tool for this, but obviously since I don't do this every day, I don't have it. And we're gonna try to make this work. So what I have is a piece of wood inside a bag, just to make sure that none of the crap from the wood actually falls inside the hub. And you gotta try and center it as best as you can, and just feed it in there. Okay, so now with it in, make sure it's nice and flush with the hub. And one thing that I did forget to mention is when you install your wheel bearing, make sure that there's no play in it, you know, side to side. Make sure that it's nice and solid all the way around. Now what I'm gonna do is flip this thing around, because now that it has the seal, it should stay, the bearing should stay in there. And I'm gonna go ahead and clean up a little bit the inside for the front bearing. And again, when you're cleaning it, after it's nice and clean, inspect everything in there. Make sure that it's nice and clean, that the if it has a race in it already in there, make sure that it's in good condition. And this one again looks in really good condition. There's no wear marks on it, there's no hot spots, there's no grooves. It looks in really good shape. And what I'm gonna do is go ahead and actually throw a little bit of grease in it. Get it all nice and greased up. Again, you don't have to go, you know, really overly excessive on the grease. Just make sure that it's all coated, because you don't want any metal on metal contact on this thing before you put it in there. And then I'm also gonna put a little bit of grease inside the actual hub, kind of like in between the outer bearing and the inner bearing, and that looks pretty good. Gonna even that out a little bit, but that's good. And now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put a little bit of grease on the spindle, and then throw this whole assembly back on the spindle. All right, so now as you can see, I threw a little bit of grease on the spindle, and that's just basically because, like I said, you don't want any metal on metal contact. And some people might say, you know, different things on how to do this. And like I said at the beginning, I'm not an expert on this, so do your own research. Use this more of a guide. Just gonna, you know, to give you some reference. But I did wheel hubs on, you know, big rigs for about 6 months at work, and this is the way they taught me to do it. So that's kind of what I'm doing with this thing too, because if it works on those big rigs, it should work on this, which is very similar. So like I said, I'm gonna grab this thing and throw it back on the spindle. So there we go. Make sure that your wheel bearings are all nice and all the way in there. Okay, so now at this point we're basically ready for our nuts. We have the hub and the wheel bearings in there, and we're gonna go ahead and throw in our spindle nuts. And now the first one that's gonna go in is the one with the little nipple facing out, so like this, with the nipple facing out. And they can be a little bit hard to get started, so make sure that you don't cross thread them or anything of that sort when you're trying to do this. Take your time and do it right. So that feels pretty good. You got it started. All right, so now that it's a little bit snug, we're gonna go ahead and give it its first torque. And it's kind of tricky, especially because this thing likes to move around, but what you gotta do is you gotta torque it, and at the same time spin your hub a little bit, kind of back and forth like this. So, and again, verify your numbers, but I'm torquing it its first torque to 50 foot-pounds. There we go, that's 50. Take your torque wrench off, grab your breaker bar or whatever else you want to use, and then we're gonna go ahead and spin this back 90 degrees. So there we go, that's 90. And then we're gonna go ahead and retorque it. So then this next one's gonna be, you're hardly gonna even tighten it. So it says it wants to 16 inch-pounds. So like I said, not much at all. So remember, 16 inch-pounds, not foot-pounds, inch-pounds. So now that that's on, we're gonna grab our little retainer locking washer and slide that over. And as you can see, it's got a little tooth. That tooth is gonna go up because it slides on that groove that the spindle has. And if it doesn't fit, there's two things you can do. So like that right there, it's not gonna fit. So we're gonna take it back out and flip it around and try it again. Now this still doesn't work. So what we'll do is tighten it just a little bit more. Just enough so that it slides onto the next slot. So maybe right there. Again, like I said, you don't want to it might even be better to kind of loosen it up just a little bit instead of tying it, if you think it's going to take too much, because this is better. What happens is that if it's too tight, it'll start creating too much friction, and it'll wear out your grease, and then it'll wear out your bearings way faster. So you don't want to have this first, all your torque will be on the last nut. This first one, you just want to set the bearings, not actually torque them. Or tying them really tight, I guess, if that makes any sense. And perfect. We nailed it. Yep. That's on there. And now we can go ahead and move on to our last nut. This is the one that you're really gonna tighten. And again, you want to make sure that you don't, cross thread this or anything. You want to make sure that it's on there good. And this is where we're really gonna have fun, because you gotta torque this outer nut from 160 to 205. So you gotta give it all of the beans. Okay. And there we go. So now what we gotta do is reinstall the actual lockout hub. And it's a little tricky because, as you can see, the axle shaft right here has a little bit of play. So what we gotta do is, I like sticking my finger through it, kind of grabbing it, pulling it down. I'm gonna pull this thing out. Yeah. Pull it down, slide it in. There we go. So now after you have your spring in there, you're gonna grab these two parts, assemble them. With the inner one, the groove, it's gotta go to the outside. And then it'll do the same thing, align it, pull it down a little bit so you pull that shaft down and slide it in. And we're gonna install that C-clip snap ring on here after we clean our hands a little bit. There we go. This whole thing on there. Yep, there we go. That should be good. So now we'll throw everything back together. Make sure that it fits good. It's in the groove, as it should be. And then we will. Then again, we're gonna take our little screw and drive it in there to make sure that this thing doesn't come out. And there we go. That's in there. Take off your little Allen head, because you won't need that there anymore. Clean your hub on the outside. And then we'll grab your little spring clip right here, retainer clip, and slide it in. Make sure you get it in the groove that it's supposed to go into. Just drive it in there, all the way in. And it's almost in there. Come on. Go home. Go to your home. It's almost in there. Alright, so now we're going to take the new O-ring from the kit and install it on the cap of the hub. Make sure that it's on free. And we should be ready to reinstall it. There we go. We're gonna grab our new bolts. And install everything again.
Okay, and that's it for the hubs. Alrighty, so now one of the most important things is we're gonna go ahead and clean off the whole brake surface, because you don't want to put your brakes back on with your discs looking like they are right now. So go ahead and spray everything, because if you go ahead and put your brakes on like this, they're basically not gonna work, or not very well at least, and it's gonna take a little bit for them to burn off all these grease. So the more you help them like this, getting it all nice and clean, the better and safer you'll be. We'll clean off all of this stuff, front and back. And hopefully that's good enough, because we are out of brake clean. But it looks pretty good. At least good enough to where it should be able to clean itself off. Okay, so now our final step is going to be to throw the brakes back on and throw the wheel back on and take it for a test drive. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay guys, so after you're done, before you lower your truck, make sure you test it again, give it that little wiggle test, and if you did everything right, that little wiggle should be gone and it should be solid. One last thing is, make sure you re-torque your lug nuts, because you well, first of all, you never want to hit them with the impact, because you don't want to over tighten them either, because they can shear off. So make sure you always torque them with a torque wrench. And you also want to be sure that you torque them, because they might still not be fully seated from replacing, you know, the hub. So always make sure you torque them, make sure everything's up to spec, and then take it for a test drive, you know, and make sure that nothing sounds weird or feels weird, which is what I'm gonna do right now. Hey guys, so anyways, I drove the truck already for a couple days, and it's driving great. There's no weird vibrations, sounds, anything like that at all coming from the front of the truck or anywhere else. Other than the regular stuff that these 7.3s already do. And I'm really happy. Now we can go back and keep enjoying the truck, take it to work, take it on fun trips and all that stuff, and stay tuned for all of that. And if you like this video, leave a like. If you find it helpful, leave a like, leave a comment with any questions that you might have, and don't forget to subscribe, because we got some more stuff coming. Anyways, see you for the next one.